Ladies and gentlemen, before we begin these next two episodes, part one and part two of The Day It Happened, we wanted to just provide a brief disclaimer, a warning. We are going to be going over a lot of heavy topics that include, of course, death ultimately, but cancer, cardiac arrest, and overall medical experiences. So we want you, one, to be aware, and two, to understand we're not looking to open up any old wounds for anyone. We're sharing our journeys with what came about, but definitely take time away as you need it, pause it as you need it. But we just wanted you to know, and hopefully you guys are taking that step with us of healing, as well as being kind to yourselves. Hope you enjoy the episode.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to episode 2, part 2, the continuation of The Day That It Happened. So today we'll be diving into a little bit about my story. Episode 2, part 1 was a little bit about you and a lot about you and how the day that it happened for you and what you went through. Today is the hard day for me, and it's gonna be what happened and how it happened for me. So
Can I just say before you get started,
sure.
For the listeners out there who don't, of course, not all of you will know us well enough. I'm really freaking proud of you, dude. I know everyone will catch on at some point. There are certain topics that are just really, really difficult for us, for anyone. Emotions in general, I know, are difficult for you. So for you to share what you're about to share, which is a really vulnerable time in your life, really difficult time that's still ongoing. Many remnants are still there. Just want you to know, excuse me, that I'm proud of you. I'm here for you.
Appreciate
And
that.
go at your own pace, man. Tell me about the day it happened.
Yeah. Well, I will say it makes it a little bit easier, obviously, doing it with you. So uh, that I can't say enough. So I appreciate that and giving me the space and giving each other the space to kind of do this.
100%.
Yeah. So a little bit of a backstory, I guess I'll start with. Um, I'm already getting choked up. Wow. All right. So me and my dad, just based off the first episode, I think people can get an idea of it. And me and you have talked about this, but like we had a here and there kind of relationship. Like I love my dad loved me. There's no doubt about that. But I think that our relationship was very battered at certain places, and I carried a lot of anger towards him. My dad was a diabetic. He got diagnosed in like 1987, I want to say. So it was 2 years before I was born. Um, Went into a coma. Probably could have died then. My mom, like, she is an amazing person. She has a giant, giant soul and a heart. But she would not give up on him. So basically stuck through it and made sure that he came out of it, and he did. But he was diagnosed with diabetes then. Generally when you get diagnosed with diabetes, you kind of take care of yourself a little bit better and eat better and do all those things. And this man did not. So there is no excuse for any of it, but kind of lived his life to his own, to the beat of his own drum. But yeah, in '89 I was born, and from the day I kind of like realized about my dad, it was just that. It's the kind of like you can't tell him anything, you can't say whatsoever, nothing to him. He's just kind of stubborn in his own way, and that's just kind of what I realized about him. So as I grew older, yeah, it was kind of tough because I was the silent kid and didn't say anything. Just seeing my dad kind of smoke, chew tobacco,
Mhm.
similarly to your dad. drink and kind of eat terribly, but knowing that he has to take injections twice a day for insulin, and yeah, it kind of pissed me off. The more I learned about health and just overall well being, and um, why someone wouldn't essentially want to take care of themselves or whatever the case may be.
Counterintuitive.
Yeah, counterintuitive, exactly,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it was kind of annoying. So as I got older in my 20s and stuff, I graduated with a public health degree. So it kind of was hilarious because I'm sitting there like learning about this stuff, and I try to tell my dad, help my dad, and in one year, out the other. He's just kind of who he is. Um, so with diabetes comes a lot of other health complications, essentially like high blood pressure and um, cholesterol and all that stuff. So
Especially with our very well balanced
it's
Indian diet, right?
yeah, yeah. My dad was one that loved the alcohol, of course, and not saying he was an absolute drunkard, but
Sure.
he liked alcohol. He would drink more than he should sometimes, but um, no judgment. I can't say anything about that. But yeah, eating rice. He loved rice.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
loved all the things that you probably shouldn't, and then especially a diabetic. Um, he wanted the thing that you're telling, like doctors are saying, hey, you probably shouldn't have, which is sweets. He
Right.
liked kind of sneaking them in. Um, so yeah, he was kind of one of those one of those people. It just he tried. There were times where he tried, and then it kind of went to shit. So it is what it is. um, but I remember very vividly, like that week that it happened. I moved to Chicagoland, the Chicagoland area in around 2017, and when I did that, I stayed with a family member at their place. They were in transition of moving in 2019. So that week, I was kind of out of uh, a place to live, essentially.
Mm.
No one knows about this except for I think my mom. My mom kind of knows, and obviously my wife now, but you now. But
And the three listeners.
and the three listeners. I Yeah, I kind of lived out of my car. Everything was just shoved into my car, and
Wow.
I didn't tell any of my family members, which are, um, yeah, I'm sure they would have said stuff, but I didn't say anything to them. I just kind of didn't want it to be a burden on them. They were just, um,
Why
in their
didn't
own
you?
world. Uh, because I couldn't talk at that point.
Mm,
Uh,
fair enough.
there you go. A little touch on episode one. No, yeah, I felt like I couldn't. Not that I couldn't. I just wasn't in that place. I wasn't in the awareness of like, hey, let me reach out and I need help and all that stuff. It
Yeah.
was just
Yeah.
I'll figure it out, right?
Right.
Um, we might get into that later on at another time and point. But yeah, I just kind of was living out of my car. I stayed at a hotel for about a week, or got a room for about a week, and I was working. So 3 days in, to me living there, I was on the phone with my parents. My dad was really upset. He was just like, well, what are you going to do? Like this and that. And I was just like, I'll figure it out. And, parents care. They definitely care. At that time, I was trying to have them come up so we could all just be under one roof, essentially.
Mm.
They lived in Atlanta. I was in Chicago. So, um, yeah, I was trying to get my bearings and all that stuff. I was trying to figure out a place to live and hopefully bring them up instead of them being so far. Um, I just remember the day that it was like a day before I was talking to him, um, and me and him got into an argument. I just vividly remember this, and this still part of this still really irks me that this happened. Um, I just don't even know what the argument was about, to be fair. But
Mm-hmm.
he was saying something and started raising his voice. And like I mentioned, I kind of had my voice at this point now because I'm older. I trying to be. and a young adult version of, you know, what I needed to grow into that,
Yeah.
right? So I'm testing him, and I kind of just like lose it. I lose my shit. I just get super angry, and he's like going off, and I just remember being like, "Dad, what the fuck? Like you can't keep doing this shit." I said that out loud. I usually am very respectful to my parents, but I matched his energy, and that was kind of like, it was like, dude, I need to like get you to check yourself. Like, I'm trying to talk to you as your son. You know, I'm trying to get you to like hear me instead of like you just being angry. Like, stop. Like, we'll figure it out. But I can't have so much stress in my life to where I'm like panicking, and then like I need my dad to be there to be supportive, not like, just yelling and being angry, pissed off, whatever.
Right. Right.
So I like went off on him, and I was just super angry. And the last thing I said, I was like, "Dude, Dad, what the fuck? Like, you know what? I don't even want to fucking talk about this right now." Like, and I just remember that, and I just was like, "Yo, I gotta go. I'm gonna go." Got off the phone. Uh, the next day, didn't call him, didn't say anything, and then went to work. Got back to my hotel room, and then next day happened. I remember going to the gym, getting home, and he worked overnights at a hotel, and I just like texted him. I think I just texted him or something like that, and um, uh, I just remember that day was it was I went to sleep, woke up, and it was like mid afternoon. I worked kind of later too, um, and it was raining. It was just kind of gloomy. Uh, I go to I go to work around like 6 p.m., 5:30, 6 p.m. So I'm on my way to work. Get to work, I'm about to start. I get a phone call. Um, I get a phone call from uh, the hotel owner's son. My parents worked at the hotel, and their owner, their son, called me. It was just like, "Neil, you need to come." And I was like,
Mm.
"What are you talking about?" And uh, yeah, I didn't realize. Just as a, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if many people know this or not, but your body holds a lot of emotion, and it
Mm.
stores a lot more than your brain and anything
Yep.
that can.
Yep.
It stores centuries and centuries worth of things that you may not even realize, generations worth of things that have been passed on. So I can feel it in my body right now as I'm talking about this. But um, I just like he's talking to me. He's like, "Your dad's going to the hospital. We called the ambulance," and like the inside, like my heart is just fluttering like it
Right.
is right now.
Right.
Um, and I just remember like I looked at I went up straight up to my boss, and I was like, "I gotta go." Uh, like on the drive to the hotel, which was right down the road from my work, I'm like searching flights and whatnot,
Yeah.
and uh, like trying to call my mom. My mom was obviously in the hospital, so she's like worried or whatnot. But got a hold of my mom, got a hold of a plane ticket, and like booked it to the airport. Um, like Ubered it straight to the airport, left my car at that hotel, and just told one of my friends to just like, hey, grab my car um, uh, when you could. So
You're
uh,
good. You're good. Take a
yeah,
breath. Take a breath if
I
you need it.
I, on the flight, all I could think about was like, man, I hope that wasn't the last conversation I had with him.
Yeah. Yeah.
To say that to your dad, not the greatest thing. Obviously, you don't want that. I know what I know now. Like, I wasn't thinking about what would have happened to him or how he felt about it. I think about that. I'm like, man, I really hope he knows that like I wasn't trying to do anything in that manner in like in a bad or disrespectful manner or anything like that. Um, but in my mind then I was just like, dude, I can't believe that's the last conversation. If this is it, I hope not. Like, that would be suck. And then I just like thought about my mom. I'm like, my mind's racing a million miles per hour. The flight to Chicago to Atlanta was about 2 hours, 2.5-ish hours. And I remember landing, like I got a hold of my mom and just told her I'm coming, don't worry, like whatever the case may be, like we'll figure it out. And I get there. I didn't know how bad the severity of it was. Again, I heard like, hey, like you just got to come. Like, it doesn't, it's not looking good, but you just got to come. So I didn't
Did,
know what was exactly going on.
did your mom give you any details on the phone?
No, she was
Distraught.
shooken.
Yeah, makes
The
sense.
so that what I know from that time, it was, um, my mom was being consoled by, so like the owners had a son and a daughter.
Mhm.
The daughter was a pharmacist or I think a pharmacist or a nurse, something like that. But she was such a saint, such a
Mhm.
saint.
Mhm. Mhm.
They were kind of they had their friends over and whatnot, and my mom was checking if my dad was responsive. She usually just puts on tea or something, puts on cha, and then like
Yeah.
tells him, "Hey, your cha's ready, right? Whatever." So she put on some cha, and then he was sleeping, or so she thought. Like he got done with work or whatever, and came
Yeah.
home and sleeping. Um, at that time, my mom didn't think anything of it. He just didn't like he was what he was. So the way
Yeah.
he was just seemed like normal. He
Right.
didn't like really
Right.
respond to her. He just kind of gurgled and went to sleep.
Yeah.
But when she was waking him up, she tried to wake him up once and like he didn't move. So she was like, "Oh, let me sleep, whatever." Then a few hours later, like she's like, she put on cha and then tried to get him up again would move. And then she got a
Mhm.
little concerned. So then she's trying to shake him awake and whatnot. He wouldn't move. So then she's like, what do I do? She went and talked to the uncle, and then
Yeah.
their kids came in, and then they realized like he was unresponsive. Um, However long it was, we don't really know,
Yep.
to be quite honest, but like unresponsive. And their daughter like started performing CPR because she could see like he's not responding, he's not doing anything. So she's performing CPR until the ER, like they called the 911 emergency, and it came as soon as it could, whatever. But she's performing CPR on him, trying to get him to at least breathe or do something, like get up, right?
Yeah.
And apparently nothing was happening. Um, they told the ER people when they came, or I mean the
The
EMTs
EMTs.
when
Yeah.
they came. Um, and they tried to kind of get him awake. They found like somewhat of a pulse, but not really.
Mm.
But it was like a really slight pulse. Luckily, the hospital was right around the corner. But my mom was very like, obviously, she's a older woman,
Right.
very very
Right.
by herselfish
Yeah.
feeling.
Yeah.
Luckily, they were there, and I still can't thank them enough, like for what they've done. But yeah, she was too distraught. I mean, like I said, all I could do is call her and just tell her like, "Hey, I'm coming." She was tearing up on the phone, and I was like really hoping not for the worst, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, on my flight down, I was like, "Please, please don't let this be the last thing," right?
Yeah.
She went to the hospital with the EMTs and whatnot. Um, as soon as I landed, got an Uber, went straight to the hospital. And I still remember this so vividly. It's like it will obviously it will never leave me.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
Walked in, like just trying to figure out where they were, or someone told me like where I could go see them. I like went down the hall, looked into the left. My mom's like sitting there, like just bawling. And
Yeah.
then luckily there was a doctor like right there, a nurse, and I was like, "Is that my dad?" He's like, "Where's my dad?" She's like, "Who's your dad?" And I was like, "Is that him?" And I saw the door like fling open, and I just see my dad hooked up to like so many tubes and things, and um, like completely not breathing on his own, just not doing anything on his own, and I like did not know what to do. So like the only thing I could think of, and this is this is why it's like freaks me out right now because my body's feeling this. It's like I didn't cry, I didn't do anything. My first mode of thought was I need to get myself together to be here, like do the things that I need to
Mhm.
do to
Mhm.
be here. Meaning,
Mhm.
don't cry, don't break down, don't do any of that. Just kind of figure out what's going on. Um, I didn't realize it at the time, like what I needed, what I didn't need, all that stuff was just kind of like in the background, whatever. It was just like, hey, what do we need to do? Like, what is there to do? How can we get this like
Yep.
moving? What needs to be done? So I'm asking and trying to get information, and the doctors were really great. They were just trying to tell me and keep me up to date, and then just trying to console my mom. Um, and they moved him from where they had kept him, like when they bring in ER patients or whatnot.
Yeah.
They had moved him into a room, and when we were able to go up to the room and see him, it took like a couple of hours, obviously, but they had kept him on a breathing machine just to make sure. And then it was literally all night, like people just kind of coming in, checking, like taking what they needed, checking more, like one thing after another, and I'm just sitting there like having to, okay, what's happening now? Um, like what is this thing? And they're just telling me, oh, we're doing, we're taking blood just to see if there's any backup, or seeing his chest. They did chest X-rays and just seeing if there was any fluid in there, and like all sorts of things just coming in and out. And all the while, he's just still on the machine. Um, all the while, my mom, good on her, but this is like the second time essentially she's seeing this man like, on the brink of death, if not
Yeah.
death, right?
Right.
Uh, it's the first time I'm doing it, and it's like I'm trying not to freak out, obviously, just trying to be there, for the best. And I around like 11, 12 o'clock, and I just remember, um, no, sorry, sorry.
You're
It
good.
was like they kept him overnight just to see what was going on.
Monitor
Um,
him. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, monitoring him and whatnot. And the next day, like I remember just us going home, doing what we needed to do, and then coming back right away. And then we were there for the entirety of the day. And it was around like uh, 10 or 11, 10, 9, 10, sorry. It was like 9 or 10 ish. And uh, I just remember like a kidney doctor coming in, bunch of people just coming in, taking a chest X-ray again, and then kidney doctor comes like maybe a little bit after, and they were just talking to me about, his lungs have been filled with fluid. They're hoping that it kind of decreases, but only if dialysis happens. And um, I knew a little bit about dialysis just because my uncle went through it too. Sadly, it didn't end well there either. So um, for me, it was like, what's well, I remember this as it was yesterday. I just looked at him straight in the face and I said, what's the likelihood that he will
Mm-hmm.
be back
Mm-hmm.
to his like even remotely normal self? Um, and the doctor was like, well, there's a good like 10 to 15% chance. And I was like, 10 to 50% doesn't seem good. It's a very low number. And he's like, yeah, it is, but it would still give him a chance, right? And I was like, yeah, but an 85% chance that he will look the way he is right now, and he will not be anywhere near functioning as he could.
Those are not the best odds.
Right. And in my mind, I'm sitting there like, um, that doesn't seem like, yeah, you're going to put him through something that's also very hard on his body already. Um, and then you're hoping, you're giving him a slight chance. And
A 1 in 10 chance.
yeah, in that moment, I I was like, look, can I have some time to think about it? In that moment, I sat there and I was like, how how do I make this call? Um, there's a lot of hard things in life you have to do, and I think the hardest thing you ever have to do is, this is what sucks about this, is logically, and I hate to say that, but logically you have to make a choice between something that you love and hold and want to hold on to, and if it's the best option for them. Your emotional side will always tell you yes. You always want to like to have that. Your heart, your soul will always your heart. Maybe not your soul. Your soul kind of understands the right and the wrongs and all that. Your heart will always want um, to hold on to the loved ones. You'll always want that, right? The logic isn't always flawed in that. Your heart is flawed a little bit because it's going to see something that's like that. My mind had to have made that choice over my heart. My heart would have said yes 1,000 times over.
Right.
My mind was saying, well, is that best for him? Because think about it. Like, what's the quality of life? And his quality of life wouldn't have been life. It's just a mush of himself, essentially.
How do you
Um,
truly choose to say, I'm letting go?
yeah. And the craziest part is I sat there, and again, it was like I told the doctors, like, give me a few hours.
Yeah.
I sat there, and one of the nurses came in, and my mom went to go like get some tea or go to the bathroom or something. And I just remember sitting there, and that the nurse looked at me and was like, "How old are you?" And I was like, "I'm 20." I was 28 at that time, and um, she just was like, uh, "Sorry, not 20." Wow, just all over the place. I was 30 at that time. But she looked at me and she was just like, "How can you like? I can't believe you can just be here so like understanding and calm through it. Like I've watched you this entire time, and you haven't like blinked at something that's come up to you." And I honestly, all I could say was like I don't know. I'm just having to be here because I don't understand it for myself. I just have to be here to understand it for my dad, for my mom, for everyone else, for all those things, and just kind of put whatever I needed away. Right? I needed my dad. I think if I just went along with that, it wouldn't have resulted in anything good.
Right. At
Um,
least not for him.
at least,
Probably not
yeah,
for
like
you either.
not for him.
Yeah.
Absolutely not for him. Right?
Yeah.
That's selfish. I like
Yeah.
for me, it would have been selfish as hell.
Yeah.
For him, I'm not looking out for him. That's the hard truth, but it is truth. Uh,
Yeah.
that was probably the most difficult decision I've ever had to make. And I get caught up with my own self and thinking like, oh yeah, I have difficult decisions every day, and that's fair. But to me, I think that's a lot. That's like the for a long time I sat there and thinking that I had killed my dad.
Yeah.
Like that's point blank
Yeah.
truth.
Yeah.
Um, I, I
Well,
I I felt with that a lot. Um,
mm,
now my dad and I only made this decision based off of a few years prior to that, he had suffered a stroke. Um, I had seen him like really when I tell like he was already a pissed man. He was frustrated as hell. Like he wasn't himself, right? It was just kind of like it wasn't a bad stroke, luckily,
yeah.
but it was still like he needed a cane, and he
Right.
needed his like he didn't have the strength that he once did. Um,
He was going through it, man.
he had been going through it. He had been
Yeah.
going through it, and that's
Jeez.
that's why it was heart. It was logic over heart at that point, right? Like how much
Yeah.
more can a person go through?
Especially when they're
And
telling you he has like a 10% chance of making it through this.
and it wasn't quality of life. It
No.
wasn't quality of
Right.
life. To be quite
Right.
honest, it was like I said, it would just be mush of himself. He'd be
Yeah.
on dial. He
Yeah.
would have to be hooked up to a machine essentially to kind of move forward to carry on to his life. So
It's the same
what is
guy,
that?
loves his food, loves his tobacco, loves his alcohol. But it sounded like he
Yeah,
loved being on his own terms.
he loved being on his own terms. Uh, yeah, yeah. Um, that day, all day I was sitting there in the hospital room and being like, come on, you're either gonna do this or you're not, right? And I hate to be so black and white about it, and I guess um, this kind of gives a little bit more for you an insight of like how I am.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but especially like anyone who's out there that tuned in for this, but like it sounds very black and white. Like you're either gonna do this or you're not. And I think like for me, I had to believe that. Like you're gonna show me that you want some to come back to this, or I'm gonna have to like make the hardest call I've ever had to make, and you're gonna put me in that. I hate to say that, but you're gonna have to do that for me, right? You're gonna have to
Yeah.
make me do that.
Yeah.
It was around like 12:30, 12:31 ish, something like that
This is at night, right?
at night,
Yeah.
and uh, we were just sitting there, and again, I don't know the exact times. I'm sorry. That the times to me are just what they were. So
This
I'm
isn't an
kind of.
investigation. You're good.
I know, I
You're
know.
good.
I just like I want to be as truthful as possible, but
Yeah.
I'm being truthful in that. Like I don't remember the times exactly. It's just one of those things that like I didn't even care for the times. It was just
Right.
I knew the dates and I knew what was going on. It was nighttime. It was very dark. It was probably around 11, 12, something like that. And so one of the machines just started going off.
Hmm.
And I was like, what the hell? Nurses rushed in here. And, those episodes of like ER and House and all those
Yeah.
things, like it felt really real. I didn't realize that until like years after. I was like, wow, thinking back on that, it like felt really like that.
Hmm. Hmm.
Me and my mom were sitting down one second and then stuff started buzzing and flashing and shit. And then like three, four nurses got inside. They just told my mom to get out, and then they told me to like kind of go off to the side, and then they just started like they started to see what was going on, and then like seeing what his heart was doing and whatnot. And I remember a dude rushing in with like a machine really quickly and trying to snap something to see if there was anything going on. And then the paddle boards came and trying to like shock him back, like his heartbeat back, um, and then they got it, and like for us for like there was like 3 4 minutes, it got his heartbeat coming back. It was normal, and then like one of the guys turned to me and he's like, "So have you like thought about the dialysis thing?" And I was like, "Yeah, I've thought about it." And I looked at them. I was like, "No, I I seeing my dad be what was happening to him, it would have just caused him more pain. As
Yeah.
much as much pain as that like me and my mom would have to go through, or said I like I wouldn't want him to go through that whatsoever. I don't care.
Right.
We'll take it. I'll take it, but I'm not letting you go through that. Uh, so I just told him like, look, don't put him on dialysis. And then next question they asked was, if this happens again, like, do you want us to bring him back? And I looked at my mom. My mom broke down crying. Um, and then I had to make that call, and that call was uh, I had to look someone straight in the eye and tell them no.
Yeah.
You know, as much as my insides and my heart were like, yeah, yeah, of course. Why would you stop? It
Right.
was no.
You had
um,
to say, don't do everything you can to bring this man back, whom I love. That's tough.
yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, no matter how much of an asshole he was. um, yeah, yeah. I looked at the guy in the face, and I was like, no. Literally kid you not, probably about a minute later, started happening again. And
Mhm.
they're like, "Are you sure? Are you sure?" And they started like with the paddle boards. Like, "Yeah, guys, I think it's a sign." Like, at like the craziest part is they're trying. They're like, they're healthcare workers. They're gonna give it their effort.
Right, right.
So they're like, we'll keep going. I'm like, guys, I think it's like I had to sit there and watch, look at everyone around, and there's probably like at least 12 people around, and I'm just sitting there going, guys, like telling them to stop. Um, and they did, and literally like 3 seconds later, it just like flatlined, and I still like it. I kid you not, it's um for a short amount of time. I would watch like if I was watching any
Medical
shows,
show or something like
medical
that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
shows, and I heard it. It was just like, yeah, wow, that really does happen. It's not a joke. It's
Yeah.
um
I bet it
yeah.
triggered you for a while, huh?
Um Maybe that I pushed away. Yeah, I didn't even realize. I wouldn't even think about it that way, but yeah, I'm sure somewhere in my being it definitely did. And I just tried to not think of it that way. Um the thing that triggered me the most was the feeling that anytime I would feel um anytime I would feel blame or hear like my dad, is like I had a voicemail of his on my phone before it drowned in Austin, Texas. But I had a voicemail of his, and anytime I would hear his voice, like for the longest time, it would feel like I had let him down. Um,
Mm.
it felt very harsh on I didn't give it my all to like keep at him. Like my mom was strong enough to bring this man back, and I felt a lot of the why didn't I? Like keep pushing for it, or who cares? 10% chance. There's hope. That's at least a good thing, right? And it took a little while to understand, like, not to blame myself for it because I don't think I did anything wrong. Um, in fact, I think I helped my dad, and the reason why it happened that way or it went down that way. Um, I think he was also telling us that I think it's time, that he had endured as much as he could with whatever. Sure, it was his sometimes his own doing, but he endured with whatever he could, and it was okay. Um, the vividness of his face, of it didn't feel like him. I remember, um, they kind of came in and you know kind of wrapped his not wrapped it fully, but like put a cloth, like put a sheet, and make sure like it was just like a warm-ish type of body. Obviously, it was going cold. Um, and then they left the room if we wanted to say the final words or final things or whatever. Um, yeah, my mom obviously was crying. She broke down, and um, I went in there, and I like the face that I saw was just not my dad's. It was very swollen, very water filled. It had retained he had his body just retained water. Um, he essentially had a not a cardiac arrest, but um, pretty much a cardiac arrest and pneumonia essentially because his body went into infection. So then he had um, internal infection as well, like sepsis and all that stuff. So kind of everything just kind of shut down one that time. So um, he had kidney failure, and everything. It just kind of went. Um, but I remember his body, and I just was like, man, I like all I can remember is telling my dad thank you and sorry. Sorry because hey, I can't believe that was the last fucking conversation I had with him. It still stings. That part won't ever leave me. Um, and I hate it. I hate don't hate myself for it. I just hate that that's how it went down. Um,
Yep.
Especially the fact that I still didn't tell him like, "Oh, I love you" and all that stuff after. It's just like I was just pissed, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and then you know they kind of wheeled his body out, and uh, my brain went into overdrive. It was just, what do I need to do? What do I got to get done? And um, all the things except for, well, how am I feeling? It was like I got to be there for my mom. I got to make
Yeah.
sure she's good. That's
Right.
first and foremost, and
Mhm.
like everything that came along with that, and you know, funeral arrangements, doing all this stuff, and um, yeah, it was kind of, you know, I just remember two people I called first. Was my kaka, my uncle in Chicago, um, and he, you know, came down as soon as he could get a flight, and my cousin, who I consider my brother, Jay, and that dude drove up, met me in the morning, and um, yeah, dude, he told me not to worry. He had me the entire time. But if I didn't have someone, thank God I had him. To be quite honest, that I don't know if I could have just. I would have had to have been absolutely stone cold, and if I didn't have him, at least like that. That's what I would have had to done. Um, so I was happy that I at least was able to kind of have someone, and unfortunately, like he's been through that at a younger age with his dad.
Mhm.
So that was my uncle that had dialysis, but um, so he's kind of seen that happen. So he was there for me. He was kind of my shoulder. Um, so it kind of helped. I didn't break down or do any of that stuff because again, my mind was on overdrive, absolute overdrive.
Yep. Yep.
As you can attest to, right? It's just one of those things. Um, but yeah, it kind of like the worst part about it is everything felt so like fast.
Mm. Mhm.
It felt so fast. Um, Pause. Um, yeah, everything felt so fast. Uh, it was like 30 hours had just flashed before my face, and then that was it. My dad was gone. Um, yeah, that was the day that happened. that that he was just blink of an eye gone. One moment, I felt like I was talking to him or yelling at him, and then the other, he's just gone.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
No happy birthdays. He's usually the first person to do that. No, none of that shit. It was just kind of blink of an eye. I remember just being there, seeing him, you know, being in the waiting room, coming up to the room, and then like maybe 24 hours, even less than that, and it was just bam, done. Like it was like right now, I'm terrified
Yeah.
thinking about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Then I couldn't be terrified because it was just kind of like it just happened. You're just kind of in the whirlwind. Right now, my body is feeling very terrified.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it fucking sucked. That kind of stuck with me. Uh, and the days after were, they were just what they were. It was weeks, months of just kind of dealing with what you needed to deal with. Had to, you know, take care of things, whatever his name was on, all that stuff. It
Yep.
just kind of came with it. You just
Yeah.
have to pick up that load and then make sure that your mom's okay.
There's no checklist for what you need to do afterwards. It's
Yeah,
crazy. So many things that I discovered after my dad passed of like, shit, when did he do this?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like anyone that knows anyone, like Indian fatherly, I guess. I don't know how many Indian dads are like this, but um, they sure as shit won't tell you what their name is on. You know,
Yeah.
so it's like you gotta just file like the, my dad was old school. There's like tubs and tubs of files, like
Yep.
papers
Yep.
and
Yep. Yep.
shit. And Jesus Christ, man, it was like I just remember like having to deal with two filing cabinets and like 6 totes worth of like documents from like the 90s, and I'm like sitting there. It took me 6 years, even when I moved from
To
Chicago to
Florida.
Florida. It
Wow.
was like I saw papers that were from fucking 1985, and I'm like, what?
Wow.
Like, what are we doing here? And then you have to sit there and like read it because you have to make sure that it's nothing important,
Yep. Yep.
or someone gonna come after you for something. But yeah, my dad was not the one to tell me of like what's happening, what he's got his name on. Um,
I don't know about you.
but yeah.
One thing. This is because I'm also a visual person.
Mm,
Um, what I used to do when I used to come across my dad's documents, tax returns, or whatever else I
mm.
came across, I sat there and almost tried to like picture
Him
him
looking at it. Yeah,
looking
yeah.
at
I
it,
did that all the time.
writing it.
Yeah,
Crazy. Like I would spend at least an hour on each document, just trying to almost.
yeah,
I probably wasn't even there when he did it, but I just wanted to feel connected to him.
yeah, yeah. I still like. I know this is probably a very um cyclical thing or like whatever. I still have a picture. I took a picture of my dad um from the hospital. Like I have pictures of him
Hmm.
obviously before, like
Yeah,
how
yeah,
he was, but I took a picture of him and I have that on my phone. It will forever be there until I know iCloud
yeah.
disappears or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. There are very few occasions or times where I'm just like flipping through it and I see it and I just go to that moment of like I still can't believe it. Like those documents, there are times where when I was going through them, I could smell hit like whatever he was smelling
Mm,
like
mhm, mhm.
whether it was like he used to have Dracar Noir. I know, like this old school, but yeah, it's like the old man smell. Like he like had some cologne, like specific cologne smell, or like he would smell like bonbon. Like there was
Mhm.
that specific smell. Like you can tell when he was doing something,
Yeah.
like what he was doing during that document, or like when he was flipping through it. But like yeah, it's just like there are times where those things are prevalent, and I don't I'm not one to like bask in it. I think I've realized that about myself. Um, I'm very I'm very understanding of like there's an expiration here. There's an expiration for every single person here, and I'm okay with that. I don't think death scares me.
Mm.
I do think loss hurts me. I don't think death scares me. Um, so I don't get scared when I look at his picture. I feel loss for him. I feel very uh, I said it. I said it last episode with you. It was. I feel very sad because, and you went through this with your dad crying in the shower and thinking of all the times he's not going to be there. I get very sad for those moments.
Yeah.
Like I feel very very sad because he as much as he was grumpy and whatever, he still loved doing those things. So I think he would have loved um, being you know at he would love being at my wedding. He's
Yeah.
would have loved, if I ever get blessed enough to have children, he would like as grumpy he might have been with me, definitely wouldn't have been with the child.
He
He
would have
would have
spoiled
been
the
a
shit out of
grandpa.
those kids.
Yeah, absolutely. That's
Yeah.
that's just how he was. It's
Yeah.
kind of weird, but
He sounds like he was a
that's just
very
how he was.
passionate human being. Like what he
Um,
felt extremes of.
he felt extreme. Yeah, yeah. The only thing you could tell when he was you could tell when he was angry. You could tell that. You never tell when he's happy. But you
uh,
that's the funniest part. After it's funny because afterwards, like, you know, going through, I stayed with my mom and just trying to like pack and help clean up because I moved her up to Chicago. But in Atlanta, I was there, and I remember their coworker, and he was just like, "Your dad was so proud of you." I'm like, I'm like sitting there going, "Shut the fuck up," because
who
he's
is that
not
man?
telling me that.
Who is that
Yeah,
man?
who is that man? Like, what are you talking about? He goes, "No, Neil, like, you don't actually know this, but like when he talked about you, like he was very passionate about you. Like he spoke very proudly." And I was like, "Ben, like that's not what he did with me."
Right.
You know, he wouldn't let me in on that. But it does go to show, I always know he loved me. He loved me in his own way, and was what it was, right? Um, but I think that part like really also hit when his coworker was like, you know, he was proud of you, and I was like, fuck, man, that's still like the last thing I said to this man was that, like, yelling at him and doing all that, and it's like, you're not gonna know. You know, I had to sit there and be like, you're never gonna know what could happen. It's like, yeah, but from then on, it's like, is that the last conversations you want to have with people in general? Um, I always said this about my dad, really, 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 in the last 6 years, and it was he made the mistakes for me. He
Mm.
made all the mistakes for me. He took the hits and he just went about it the way that he did. But I always had to, I like came to the conclusion that I think he was here. He was my dad for a reason, to take the mistakes for me. And what I mean by that was he just kind of did those things so that I could see not to do certain things in certain ways. That doesn't mean everything, but he took those mistakes so I could be not like him, not, you know, follow in that way. Um,
It's a
and
really beautiful way to
like,
look at it.
yeah, and this tattoo, it says "Live to the beat of your own drum," and that kind of, like you said, he just kind of did that. That's the first thing I thought of when I got a chance was the man lived to the beat of his own drum. Um, right or wrong, didn't fucking matter.
Right. Right.
But he lived to the beat of his own drum. How he wanted to do things. No one was going to tell him no. No one's going to tell him anything. Stubborn as an ox. You know, he just was what he was. I think that's what like I remember the funeral a lot.
Mm.
Like, I remember the funeral so much because like driving there and then seeing his body, you know, how they like clean it up and kind of dress it up and do it all together. And it's like this is like the hospital was one thing, but like that was the last time you'd ever see his physical form,
Right.
ever,
Right.
right? And just like, dude, I was fine as an understatement, but fine up until like I saw his body.
Right.
And then I don't know if it was repressed emotions or, you know, whatever it was, but like my entire body felt it. My entire being felt it. And I you know, you have to give a speech and you have to do that, and like not a lot of people showed up because it was such a very quick thing that happened, but I'm sitting there, I'm like trying to talk and say something, and like 5 words in, and I like could not keep it
Mm-hmm.
together.
Mm-hmm.
And for the rest of the time, could not keep it together. Um, if it wasn't for, you know, my cousins and Jay and um, my my boys, my friends that keep drove up to freaking even be there to for me, it's like I don't know if I could have gone through that day. Um, I don't know if I could have gone through that day. And it would have been a very big disservice for myself and my mom and my dad. But I'm very thankful that they were there. Um,
Shout out to the boys.
yeah, I'm very thankful for them. I'll never forget it. I'll never forget. like what they did and what that meant to me. I can't even put into words, but I just know like yeah, those 2 days will man. um, I know I can't. I know these words won't mean jack shit because it's not up to me and it's no control of anybody else's. But I really hope that no one ever has to like make that decision, or no one has to like see their parent like that, like, or anyone. To be quite honest, I really hope not. Uh, I know that's unfair of me to say, but I really hope not. It's like,
I don't
well, it
think it's
sticks.
unfair. I think it's wishful.
That's
it's
wishful.
it's
It
good to be
just
hopeful.
sticks, man.
Yeah, it does. It does. Have
Sorry.
no, you don't have to apologize, man. We're in no rush. This is your space. I have a couple of questions for you when you think you're ready.
Yeah, man, go
All
for it.
right. But before I get to the questions, I'm going to say one thing to you. And I'm going to preface it ahead of time and say that I'm taking the audacity here. So I apologize ahead of time for taking
You
this
don't need to.
audacity, but I'm about
You
to.
don't, you don't need to apologize for it. You can have all the audaciousness that you want with me. You know that. You don't have to apologize for that. That's dumb.
I know I know you guys shared a complicated relationship. I know one of your biggest regrets is that last conversation. And it sounds like and seems like, based on conversations we've had, even just now, but even prior, that it's still something you're struggling with and wrangling with. And I guess if I can just offer any sort of solace, it would be to say to you that that was the last thing you may have said to him in this side of the world, physical dominion. You and
Mm,
I often talk about spirituality, right? And I know you're a
yeah,
big believer in that.
yeah,
That wasn't your last conversation with him. It
yeah,
was just the last one that he physically responded to.
yeah. No, I totally, I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. I think that I'll tell you is maybe a little short story, but a side story. But I'll tell
Right
you the
away.
day like it was my birthday and I was working. It was like it was the first birthday, my very first birthday that he after he had passed. I was born on February 1st, 1989. For those listening out there, but my first birthday without him. I went to work. It was a Saturday, and I drove in. And as I was driving, I kid you not, um, the I cried in the car driving because it was the like again he was the first person to tell me happy birthday. He would always call me
Yeah.
first person
Yeah.
every morning. If I wake up, be first person no matter what in college wherever, always the first person. I don't know why. Maybe because he loved me, right? But
100% he did.
yeah, yeah. But I was driving to work, and I worked in Mundelein at the time, at Medline. So we were in office. I was driving up there, and I see a pack of deer up to the side of the road, and just kind of spur of the moment. It was like 7 o'clock in the morning. Luckily, they didn't cross the road because that would have been scary. Um, but as soon as I like, again, I'm a like like you said, I'm a big believer in spirituality. I see signs and I understand them a little bit,
Yeah.
and if I don't, I kind of look them up, you know, um, and I take them for with a grain of salt. Don't get me wrong. Not
Yeah.
some,
You look for miracles in the universe, even if they're small.
yeah, yeah.
I get that.
I see the romance in things
Yeah.
and the beauty, and I think that's changed over time. I see the beauty in things, and where I probably never used to. But I saw a pack of deer, so I looked it up, and didn't realize that if you see deer just unassumingly, you're not even thinking about it, and you just see them unassumingly, that it is a sign from a loved one,
Hmm.
from you know that realm, from the spirit realm. Not to get too
Wow.
into it, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it was sporadic, right? And looking it up, and it's someone like that you're thinking of in that time, and that's
Yeah.
a dear
Yeah.
dear memory, and someone who's been lost. Uh, and it's so funny that it happened right then and there.
First
And
thing in the
then
morning on your birthday.
right, and then I started crying. I'm like, I start shedding tears, and I'm like, man, I can't believe like I don't want to hear his fucking voice. I want even if I didn't answer, like he would leave me a voicemail saying happy birthday. None of that shit, right? as I start to cry, kid you not, snow starts to fall. Just all of a sudden,
Wow.
snow just starts to fall. Um, and I just sat in the parking lot for like 10 minutes, bawling my eyes out, and I was just like, "Thank you." You may not be able to say it in person, um, but you did show it, and like, um, yeah, I won't ever forget that birthday. I thought like people were like, "How could you go to work? How could you do that?" And like, I'm so glad I did
Yeah.
because he showed up regardless. First person still to tell me happy birthday in the weirdest way ever. I'm sorry.
What are you
Jesus.
apologizing for, man? You're good.
Um, yeah. It was crazy. It was just one of those weird things that like it's super crazy
Yeah.
to me still to this day. And yeah, I mean, like in his own weird way, he's just there. So yeah, big believer in that. Absolutely,
I love that for you.
absolutely.
I love that
Yeah,
story, but I also love that for you because
yeah,
I that
absolutely.
I know how much you hold on to those types of things, the spirituality side especially. So
Yeah.
I'm sure that over a lot of different things that you may have gotten that day, that sign is probably one of the best things for you. I love
Oh
that for
yeah.
you.
Every day, I think like there's a few of them. Blue Jays are also known for that. If you
Hmm.
ever um, come across a blue jay, and then cardinals as well. And my favorite bird is actually a cardinal, which is hilarious. That like I see them so. Cardinals have a very big spiritual connection in the world of like love
Hmm.
and also a message from the other side.
Hmm.
And blue jays, especially, they carry messages from that. So like again, I'm not how much you want to take with that grain of salt, but
We
it's
choose
funny when you
to
kind
keep
of
ourselves
like
sane.
see it. Yeah, I mean, when you start to notice certain things,
Yeah.
it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Sorry if that's a little woo woo, but I just yeah, it's weird how my life has worked since then, and I think a lot of it has to do with him.
Yeah.
Um, and then others that I lost, I mean, I think people mention, you know, they're always with you, they're always with you, and you kind of take that for what it is, but um, if you understand even remotely a little bit of like how the universe may function, any of that stuff, it kind of rings true.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
that energy from people that love you and you love and doesn't go away, kind of carries you forward, and you kind of hope that you can just give it some gratitude along the way. Yeah. So
100%. There's
yeah,
a
that wasn't audacious at all. You just I'm glad you
I
asked that. That
I
was
I
that
don't
was
like
good.
the idea of speaking for your dad. Not because of anything else except for you
You have to do
deserve
it
to
in a
hear it from
very
him. You
you have to
deserve
do
to
it in
hear
a
it from
very
him.
low gruntled voice. No.
I'll go get a cigar or something like that,
Yeah.
uh,
Dude, I still remember it. He would call one of the funniest things he used to do, and this isn't funny anymore, but at the time I didn't think of it. I was a kid, I was an idiot. My mom didn't think it was funny. Like for 2 years he used to call me A. And I would just respond. I mean, it's my dad. He's just like, hey, hey. My mom one day like freaked out. She was like,
Oh
why do you keep
man.
calling him A? We gave him a name. His name is Neil. And like, you know, but I thought, I still remember that from him. And then anytime this man was sorry, I'm just like just remembering.
There's no agenda,
um,
man. You're good. Keep
yeah,
talking.
but like there was I don't know, man. This is a very Indian father thing to do, and I always told myself I would do this with my kid just for shits and giggles. But um, comment if you agree with this, if your dad's ever done this. But so my dad, I would be playing in my room, N64, whatever,
Yeah.
and I would hear my name. I would be like Neil. It's like, man, what does this man want? So I pause my gig, run over, like, yeah, dad. He goes, "Get me some water." The fridge is like
Yep, right there.
15
It's
feet,
right
15 feet,
when he
right?
called you from the other room.
Yeah,
Oh my
call me
god,
from the
yep,
other
yep,
room.
yep, yep, yep.
Don't give a shit what I'm doing. But I was like, all right, so gave him some water, right? Now I left. I hear Neel again. And I'm trying to keep him muted. If I could make his, I would
Uh,
be like, Neel. He had a very loud, projecting, low voice, but he called me and again, man, what the fuck? So I paused the game again. Come out. I was like, yeah. He
uh,
goes, now this is where it gets dickish, right? He'd just be like, can you give me the remote? Brother, this man is laying on the couch. He's laying on the couch, just watching TV, just wanted to switch the channel. The TV, the remote is within arm's distance. He just needed to like flip over to like reach over and grab that shit. And this man called me to do that.
oh man.
That's yeah. I was like, what the hell? And I didn't realize like what that's for, right? And this is a very passive aggressive thing. So like, fucking please don't do this shit ever. To your kid. I wouldn't do this. I would do this to my kid one time. That was it. My dad used to do this all the time to me. But like, this is a passive aggressive shit. It's like, dude, if you want to spend time with me, just fucking say that, bro.
Yep.
you know, don't keep calling me every 10. I'm trying to win a fucking basketball game in NBA Live 99, brother. Like, I am playing a game. I'm in it. I'm
Oh,
trying to
that's so
win.
funny.
Like, don't do that shit. But he did every time. Lo and behold, like whenever I would leave to be outside, this man would he would he would always ask where I was. It's
Mm.
like, dude, I told you. You know where I am. It'd always be like he would always ask my mom, like, where's Neel? When's he coming back? It's like, bro, he just left like 5 seconds ago. What do you mean? Like, the house is too quiet. It's like, shut yeah, you're too loud. What do you want? What are you trying to do here? Those are his like weird, nuanced ways of wanting me around, and yeah, it was weird. That was the struggle.
Yeah, if you
I would
leave
always
the
get
house, who's
pissed.
getting him his remote, man? Shit.
Jeez, fucking hire a butler.
I mean,
No, have
he
kids.
helped birth one, so
Yeah, I know. It's
have
like
kids.
no, just have kids. It's like,
Although
dude,
hiring a butler is probably cheaper, and not probably, it's definitely cheaper.
definitely cheaper. Definitely cheaper.
So
No, I was an expensive kid.
here's a couple of questions for you.
Sure, fire away.
So obviously we've talked about your relationship with your
Sorry, I
dad.
feel really quickly. I just want to
Yeah,
mention this.
shoot.
Like, I feel very uncomfortable doing this, but I appreciate you listening and just being here with me through this. Um, but yeah, this was very uncomfortable talking about this. I've only done this behind closed doors and with people I really, really can kind of let myself do this with. But yeah,
Hey,
yeah.
take a
I
moment
mean,
to capture your growth,
Jesus.
man. Because you're putting this out
Yeah,
there,
well,
and who knows how many people
yeah.
listen, but to put it out there in the first place, that
It's
takes a lot,
terrifying.
man.
Yeah. But okay, sorry.
Don't
Continue with your
apologize. I'm
question.
really freaking proud of you. I keep saying that over and over again because I don't have the
I
words, but I'm really freaking proud of you.
I I don't want anyone to think like I don't want anyone to think like, oh yeah, you know, uh, um, yeah, I don't want anyone to think like, oh, to be proud of me or anything like that. I think it's cool to have this space. I
Yeah,
want people to have this
yeah,
space.
100%.
Like everyone gets to do this, so do it. Um, that's kind of it is terrifying. I that's why I want to acknowledge this right now in my being right now. I am thoroughly terrified that I have said all of that stuff. Um, I want to make that explicitly clear. It's uncomfortable, but I am okay, and I appreciate you being here with me through that. So um,
Always.
I just wanted to acknowledge that part. Like I'm sorry if I keep moving around, and if you guys are watching this, like, yeah, I feel very uncomfortable, but that's it's a good thing. it's a good thing.
It's exactly what we're
Yeah.
trying to promote: the real conversations, the authentic you. So I appreciate you sharing. Given what you've told us so far about your relationship with your dad,
Mhm.
how has losing him changed how you move through the world now?
Yeah. Okay. A lot of ways. A lot of ways. I'm again. We all know this. Everyone knows this. Everyone should know this. I'm going to state this for myself. This is for myself. I am not perfect, and I am a human being. So I'm telling myself this because I don't do this nearly enough. Um, I am not perfect, but what I tried to gain from his loss, one was the perspective of, hey, he made the mistakes, so I wouldn't have to. That
Mm,
doesn't mean I can't. That
mm-hmm,
doesn't mean I shouldn't.
mm-hmm,
That doesn't mean any of that shit. But um, he made some of those mistakes, so I could see it, and this is what I took from it, and it was, I think he did that, obviously not knowing, but his purpose on this life as a father to me, he might not have been the best father or what I needed, but I didn't know it at the time. But what I gained from it was that it was, I think he made a lot of bad choices, very bad calls, how to handle things, not to handle things, all sorts of shit, right? Um, but if I could remotely take 10% of that, carry on, then I think I would have gained something. So I appreciate him taking the falls or the mistakes or the beatings and not, maybe I hate that he didn't say anything or didn't share it all the time. Um, but I appreciate that. The other things I've learned, um, to embrace uh, to embrace your own footsteps in the world. Why I got this tattooed
mm-hmm,
and what I
mm-hmm.
learned from him was live to the beat of your own drum. Don't worry about so much as to pleasing and having to be perfect and um, you can take everyone's opinions and advice and all the things with a grain of salt. You can, and to be fair, like whatever sticks with you, and you can test it, you can experiment it, do with it what you will. But at the end of the day, it's yours. It's You get the choice. You get a chance to live. I used to be pissed at him for this. This is why I got it tattooed on me. I used to be really pissed off at my dad. I'm like, dude, does this motherfucker not care about, you know, like what his choices is? Are you even thinking about your kids? Are you being a selfish dickhead? Like
Yeah, yeah,
your consequences. Like, what are you doing, right?
right.
So there is a way of like going about it, but there's also a way of like understanding, like, dude, live to the beat of your own drum. Honestly, because then there are no regrets. The funniest part is when we're wheeling him to the fire, to the cremation, um, it starts to rain. It's a bright sunny day. We're wheeling him out. It starts to rain. Now, in our culture, obviously we know this. Like, um, that rain is a good thing
Yes,
when that
it's a
happens.
welcome thing.
It's a welcome thing, right? Like your soul is very, it's pure. And again, I was pissed. I always think my dad was a dick. Um, but his soul was very pure. He didn't have any bad intentions. Um, he had a lot of hurt, a lot of pain, but he didn't have any bad intentions. So like when wheeling him out and you see the rain, you're like, what the fuck? Like what? All of a sudden, and then we put him in we put him into the fire and you know have his ashes, and then like we walk back to the main room and like cleared up just like that. The
Wow,
only time it rained was when we wheeled him out, right?
wow.
So yeah, I kind of like took away from that of how to embrace life in a different way in terms of seeing the positive. I don't think I always used to do that as well. Kind of half, like, glass half full instead of half empty, right? Um, and embracing the beauty of life. In that moment of the rain coming down and not realizing it at the time of, like, obviously we were in the emotion and whatnot. Like afterwards, just realizing like how beautiful of a thing that is. So like when I noticed it on my birthday, like noticing and seeing some of those things, I like started to find the beauty more so in it. And I know that's like a sad thing. Like it took someone's death essentially to kind of do that, but it hits when it hits, and your life turns as it turns. Um, yeah, I've taken. I hate to say this. I'll share an ugly thing that I've taken as well, and that's his anger.
Mm.
Um, so it's not always just rainbows and sunshines, but
Yeah.
it's also the bad.
Right.
I've because I grew up around it. That's what I've seen from it. So I've taken that too, and that's my job to unlearn it. Right? It wasn't clearly his. It wasn't. It's my job to unlearn that part. So just as much as you take the good and what comes along with it, you also embrace the bad and figure out what it means for you and
Yeah.
how to navigate that. Um, which I'm learning to do that. You know, being in my own skin. My dad did that so well, and I think I have a harder time doing it. Um, hence why that tattoo, right? So like those, there are so many things that I've taken from him. Those are the major ones that I like. I can just yeah, I can just take off the bat. And anger to me isn't inherently a bad thing. When I say that, I'm learning that it doesn't have to be a bad thing, and it doesn't
Right.
have to look the way that my dad
Right.
had to make it
Right.
look, right? Um, so just like how he made those mistakes, like this is one of those that I have to unlearn his mistake that is becoming mine, right? So it's there's so many things you can take away from it. I think those are like very prevalent for me. Um, you know, uh, I think if you've met me, you know me very well. I think you can easily say those things, and to be quite honest and to be fair, that comes from my dad, which is crazy to say that because I talk about him so like he's a grumpy guy and this and that. It's like, but the nuances that he lived by, I kind of took along with it. I also took along to being healthier.
Right.
To be quite honest,
Yeah. I know how
watching a
big that is for
man
you.
Yep, watching a man inject himself 2 times a day did not sit well with me. That's my dad, and like having to see that at the dinner table or wherever, and you know, I know he kind of like when I was younger, he would kind of do it away and not seeing it, and then when I did see it, I was just like, it was there. He didn't. I'm glad that he didn't hide it because then it would have been a lot different, right? So I do take that as well. What he didn't do, clearly, I try to take that as well. Now, again, in my 20s, I made those mistakes and ate the way I did and drank the way I did and whatnot. But I did. I do inherently take that from seeing my dad one way and then seeing his dad, my grandpa, one way. So, um, yeah, it's kind of funny that what didn't stick with him stuck with me a little bit more. But yeah,
Well, it
so those are.
comes down to kind of one of the topics that we talk about often, right? And that we'll probably be touching on as well in future episodes, but also in one dedicated episode, I believe, which is just our burden to elevate, to be better,
Hmm.
to take that
Hmm.
and figure out what it means for you. So I really like how you put it. We may not be able to eliminate it altogether, but we can take it and make it ours and figure out how to do it differently.
Yeah,
And I think that's
and
super important.
I agree. And it's again, it's not always sunshine and rainbows. Right? You do take good things, right? But I want to acknowledge those bad things.
Yeah.
I appreciate that I still um, that the people around me can help me, bring an opportunity to me, even if I don't like it or don't see it that way. Or I trust me, folks. uh, I don't sometimes. I'm very. There are some parts of the stubbornness that doesn't fall far from the tree. But yeah, it's those things. Like I don't. I say the he made the mistake part very loudly because I acknowledge it for myself. He did make those mistakes, and I did see them. Right, I did see them though, they do leech on and latch on to those things. And my dad, if I can acknowledge that I wasn't perfect, he wasn't either, and it's okay. Um, so it's tough because he is the person that you want, right? You called your dad a superhero. I never looked at my dad as a superhero. I looked at my dad as a dad. Where was my dad? Um, I always thought he could do so much more, um, and I felt bad when he couldn't. Yeah, I always thought of him as so much more, and I don't know if he thought of himself as that.
Right.
So I feel bad that he didn't get that opportunity. But that doesn't have to be us. That doesn't have to be me, right? So um,
I think it's
yeah,
amazing that we can have these different purviews, but ultimately it comes down to learning. And because, like you said, I thought of my dad as X, you thought of your dad as Y, but like we both learned a lot from that. And I guess
mhm.
more specifically from the loss of that.
Yeah, yeah. I wish it hadn't been from a lot.
Yeah.
I'm glad it was. I'm not saying that. I wish it hadn't been, but I'm glad it was because at least it's something. Again, I will say though that it didn't look. It's not pretty.
Yeah.
It's not pretty. It's not some rainbows and sunshine. In my 20s, I also took alcohol from him. Right.
Yeah. Right.
I've taken those things, so I use that as my coping for when for a lot of my like traumas from the past, like my childhood, and how I was victim and all this stuff. Like I've taken some of those bad things. I've realized switching them around a lot more after his death. Um, you know, so there are times where I can see it, I can feel it viscerally inside of me, and like that, like it's an easy route to have done it in that way. Just be like, fuck it, you know, put a bottle to the face and be okay. It's whatever. Um, like my dad sometimes did, and uh, just join him. You know,
Yeah.
when things feel the way that they do.
Right.
Uh, just kind of walk in his shoes of like, yeah, well, he did it this way. I can do it too.
Right.
It's fine.
Right.
He lived to 67. It's fine. It is what it is. He lived angrily. I can too.
Right.
People will be around, but it's
Right.
like that's not what we want to do. Um,
Because you remember how it made you feel, and you don't want to make
Anybody else feel
anybody
like
else,
that,
especially not your kids.
including myself,
Yeah. Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
I think my dad had something in terms of just an ability to speak or ability to share his what pain that he was holding. You know, I think he could have even 1% would have changed him one
Yeah.
percent. Right?
Right.
It would have made an effect at least 1%.
Yeah.
Um, um, yeah, it's it's tough. That day will never. It's not going to. It shouldn't. It's not going to fade away. It doesn't need to. That day was. It's a harsh like punch in the gut to
Yeah.
know what come, and it's not just that day, right? We talk about that day. It's not just that day. It's like the weeks and for you it was years before, and then however long after, right? So it was a multitude of things.
Yeah.
For me, it was a week, maybe a day, and then it was like months of all the other shit that
Yeah.
comes with it,
Yeah.
and then you don't ever get a chance. Like you touched on this of like of you don't ever get a chance to think that you get to grief. Like, what is
Mhm.
that for you?
Mhm.
For me, it was I didn't even want to think about it. There's no time to think about that. The hell is that? you know? Yeah. I also remember vividly, like, this goes based off of episode one, Why We Don't Talk. There was a moment I remember clearly sitting in, sorry, these are tangents, but I remember sitting clearly in the room with my uncle. And he was just like, don't cry right now. We'll have another time to cry.
Mm,
Yeah,
mm, mm-hmm.
I mean, it didn't piss me off or anything
Yeah,
like that at that time.
because at that
But he
time
was
it made
right.
sense.
For that time, it was like, yeah, I
Yep,
need to put that shit away.
yep, yep.
You're right. Um, Funny enough, it was like for a while that other time never came though. It's like
I was just gonna
we're
ask, when was that other
yeah.
time? I was
When was
just
that
gonna
time?
ask
Other
you.
time? Yeah, yeah, yeah. For the longest, it never came. That's the funniest part. Um, Even he had to like put it aside, right? Like that's his brother that passed away. And you have to put it aside, and it's like you have to show up in a different way, and like so grief, you're seeing it that way, and like it's not just the day that it happened. It's like the piles and piles of it. It's the years. It's the trauma that sits on your body. It's the emotions that you don't get to share. It's all that stuff that piles.
And I think that's exactly why we titled this episode the way we did. We
Yeah,
called it the
yeah.
day it happened, and it's meant to be ironic because it wasn't just the day.
Wasn't just a day.
The
Yeah,
day
absolutely.
was what brought upon maybe a period in their lives, right? Both of our dads. It was the period for
Uh-huh.
them. But for us, it's triggered a whole, basically like a whole other life. Like I think back to before dad passed, and that seems like
Mm.
a whole different life. Like a whole
It is. Yeah. Right.
and it's just so it's crazy that, like you said, the blink of an eye, he's gone, and
Yeah.
now life is just completely different.
And it's the like pre dad or what is it? Before dad, after dad, BD,
Yeah,
AD, right?
ADVD,
It's
yeah,
like
yeah,
it's like that. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
It's like I mean, it feels like that, right? Like there. I still remember times before him. The time after him, obviously, is much shorter.
yeah.
But it's like that. Like I understand a lot differently of the time after, which is funny to me because if imagine if the after time happened even remotely before.
Right, right.
You know.
I have
So
one last question before
yeah,
we close this out.
sure.
And yes, this entire podcast is about us being authentic, real, and saying the things that we often shy away from saying. But I also want to acknowledge that the question I'm about to ask you is heavy. And saying that you're not ready to answer that is okay, because that in itself is your truth. That is your authentic version of you. So please don't let this feel like it needs to have an answer. That the answer could
Okay.
very simply be, I'm not ready. But I came up with this question because I recently did it, and I remember how therapeutic it was for me.
Oh,
So
okay. I know what you're gonna ask.
if you had the opportunity, what is something, or multiple things if you wanted to share, you would say to your dad now?
Oh shit! Wow. Um, in the time where I am right now, in the space where I am right now, um, I would give him a hug. I'd tell him I love him, and I would tell him. Actually, I wouldn't tell him anything. I would ask him to talk to me. Uh, I would ask him. I think as I got older, I used to ask him questions
Mm,
here and there.
mm-hmm,
It
mm-hmm.
would it would you could see him kind of the wheels turning and
Yeah.
kind of opening a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah.
It was there, but I think in the space that I am now, I think I would. I don't think I would tell him anything. I think I would give him. Uh, I would hug him. I would tell him I love him. Tell him it's okay to tell me what's going on. So that's like from what I know now. Because after his death, again, um, I had a lot of just I was so pissed at him when I was a teenager. So pissed the way he was, the way he treated me, my mom, whatever. Just pissed. Didn't get it, right? Just always thought like, why the fuck is man angry? Like, what the hell, right? Um, Took a lot of realization and a lot of understanding, a lot of hearing more and more about him, The reason why I think that his soul is pure. Again, it's not just because of the woo of the rain falling, but I don't think my dad ever had any malice. I don't think he was intentionally a bad person.
Right.
It took a long time for me to realize that
To accept
because
that. Yeah.
to accept that because the one thing I did was picture my dad as a kid, um, and it broke my heart. What him as a kid needed, what him as a child wanted, what wasn't given to him, what could have made him feel that way or um, not feel that way. Uh, Again, what we are carrying now is a burden of having to undo stuff. What did they carry as a burden? That they didn't get a chance to say any of that shit. That they didn't get a chance to say what was going on with them or feel
Right.
or tell mom, hey, why aren't you love me? Or tell dad, like, why aren't you there? None of that shit.
Right.
Um, so I think for me and the place that I am right now at 36, just gone through what I've gone through and um, accepted what I've accepted about my dad. Yeah, I would. I don't think I would tell him anything. I would ask him questions. I
Mm,
would ask him, give him the ability to say it's okay. Tell me what's going on. Don't just yell. Don't just get angry. If you do get angry, that's okay. But also tell him, or ask him, like, hey, what makes you angry? Like, where is that coming from? Ask and see if he can go anywhere with that. See if he can understand it for himself. Help him. Um, Biggest part is just to tell him I love him, um, because I didn't get a chance to, obviously, and give him a hug. I think it's funny. We used to every time I would see them and leave, go back to college, whatever. Uh, as grumpy as a man he is, he always hugged me. So it's funny. It's funny to me. He always tell me I love you, beta. Um, you know, uh, but he I would just give him a hug, an actual hug, and tell him it's okay. Let's talk. Let's. I'm gonna give you some questions, and I'm gonna ask you these, and it's okay that it doesn't have to look good. You don't have to be a certain way. There's mom's not around, no one's around. Me and you just sit and chill. We'll have a fucking beer. I don't care, right? But like, talk to me. Tell me what's going on.
yeah.
Now knowing what I know, I wish I had been able to do that before. I wish I had the awareness for myself to be able to do that before. Maybe it would have changed. Maybe something would have came about it. I don't know, but um, that I wouldn't tell him to do anything because I think I know my dad very well. Stubborn as an ox, like I said. I tried to tell him to do a bunch of shit, still wouldn't
Yeah.
matter. But I would ask him a lot of questions about where his pain came from. I think he was holding a lot of pain. I think he was holding a lot of hurt. And it's not him as an adult. Maybe it's him as a child,
Right.
and or wherever it comes
Never
from.
got to
But
heal.
yeah, and I wanted to give that kid a hug. Uh, from the sound of it, from that young man, from like the teenager to like the 20. My dad was a hoodlum. He would like he would like leave home and do like just dumb shit in India. Like he was a hoodlum, but um, so I think he was a fun guy. I think that just like stuff happened along the way
Yep.
that
Life happened.
life happened
Life
in a
happened.
way that he didn't understand it himself. So yeah, I think today, in this day and age, in this time frame of where I am in my life, I would ask him questions and just give him a hug and tell him I love
It takes a lot to take a lot of the negative experiences that you had, mentioning how you when you grew up and sort of the personality that he had, to take that and to look past it. And I think this is something I really appreciate about you and the friendship we have. You're able to look past what's happening in front of you, and I think that's incredible, because I think a lot of people will take things at surface value, right? Someone's getting angry. Hey, that person's a dick. They're an asshole. They're angry. Why are they getting angry? Doesn't matter. Like, they won't go a level deeper or even two levels deeper. But the fact that you sit there and you say, I would give my dad's younger self a hug and I would ask him questions if I had the opportunity to. I think it's incredible. And if I know for a fact when you ask those questions, one of the things he would definitely say to you is, that he's proud of you, because you have elevated yourself to definitely to a place where most people don't get to, but certainly a place he didn't get to, and I think he would love to see that.
I don't take compliments very well,
I know
so
you
I
don't.
appreciate you
I
saying
know you don't.
that. I know you just put me on the spot there. I appreciate you saying that.
Oh, hey, Nala.
The way go ahead. Nala wants to join in.
Nala
I
wants to
like
join
it.
in. It was Siri last time. This
She
time,
makes.
Nala. Let's see who we bring in next.
Hey, I love Nala will be a Nala can be a all the time appearance if you've met her. Um, but she wants my co-host chair. She can have it. I think I realized it more so, to be quite honest, because I'm walking in the shoes. I think um, it's more so self awareness and self realization. To have people around that accept you
Yeah.
in that way,
Yeah.
and open that conversation for you. Understand that it's not you. Like again, I took that anger. I have it. Doesn't mean I understood it all my life. Right. I'm learning to understand it now. So, but where would I be if I didn't have
Right.
you
Right.
guys, my wife, my
Yeah.
mom, all the people that are there in general to talk to me, to be able to like sit there and accept that. And not that I show it all the time, not that I'm an angry, grumpy person. You know me very well. Like I'm not that, right? But at the same time, like self-awareness is for me is, well, I didn't cause these things. I wasn't sitting there saying, give me to be angry. Um, it came from somewhere. And I think I realized that when I realized that more for myself, I realized that more for him.
Right. Right. That makes
Yeah.
a lot of sense.
So that helped me a lot.
I'm
But
really glad,
yeah.
man. Really glad. I what I heard a lot of also, and I'll summarize it with you and I both love Ted Lasso, so I'm gonna throw a Ted Lasso reference in here.
I love it.
Great freaking show. For those of you
Love
who
it.
may not have watched it, and I'm specifically gonna call out one of our closest friends, Dhruv, because he started it with us and still has yet to finish it. So I'm gonna call him out here because he needs to finish that shit. But anyway,
Oh, hot brown water.
right. Ted Lasso, there was a statement that they talked about, and specifically the scene where he's in the bar throwing the darts, right? And everyone underestimated
Mm.
him, thinking he's from Kansas, doesn't know what he's doing, doesn't know how to play
That's funny.
darts, starts throwing the darts with his left hand,
Mm-hmm.
or was it his right hand? One of his offhand, he was doing
His offhand was the
terribly.
left hand. Yeah.
He was basically hustling him. Make a bet, and he tells this story where the moral of the story is basically be curious, not judgmental.
Mm-hmm.
And that really stuck with me the first time I watched it.
Yeah, that's actually my favorite scene in,
One of my,
in
yes,
the entire series.
100%,
That's my favorite scene.
100%, hands
It's
down,
the funniest thing. Yeah.
hands down. I would recommend, if for no other reason, go watch that scene because that really, really stuck with me. And
Yeah.
that's a lot of what I hear from you right now is you want to be curious with him. You don't want to be judgmental. And I love that. I'm really, really happy that you're doing that. With that, that was the end of episode 2, part 2 of The Day It Happened. We are going to be doing episode 3 after this. Obviously, these are some heavy topics, folks. So we fully understand that it may not be easy to get through some of these episodes, but we really, really hope that in some way, shape, or form, you felt heard, seen, or otherwise, because we were being very authentic. And I think both of us gained some new perspective, but also learned a lot about one another, which is crazy to think about considering how long we've been friends and how much we've talked over these years. But the fact that I'm
Yeah.
still learning new things, and that's one of the things we said, right? Like looking
Yeah.
forward
We're gonna
to
learn.
learning
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
Uh,
Through this journey, we're gonna definitely look forward to learning more
exactly,
about each other, which is
exactly.
good.
So episode 3 is titled "I'm Not My Dad, but I'm Trying," and that is going to really take a turn to look at what our journeys look like afterwards. But to be just even more specific, how we fill our dad's shoes after he's gone, when everyone expects us to basically pick up the pieces and pick them up quickly. What that looked like, what kind of man we decided we wanted to be, and let's be real. To answer that question, I mean, I remember calling you just a few months ago saying, Neil, I'm struggling with my identity. I'm struggling with what it means to be a man in
Yeah, yeah,
2025 in the society and everything that we have going on. What does that look like? So I'd love to
yeah.
say I have the answer to that question. I don't quite yet, but
None
maybe.
of us do. That's why we're learning.
Exactly. We're going to go through the process of elimination. So just like how Neil's dad showed him what not to do, we're going to show you what not to do and what didn't work for us through process of elimination. And we're going to talk through that and what society expected of us, what we decided we could or couldn't do. So tune in next time to Bop or Bop. I am your co-host, Amit Majathia.
And I am your other co-host, Neel and Amit. So we appreciate you guys. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next episode.